In the last video, we learned what vanishing and exploding gradients actually are. Now in today's video, we will see how weights are initialized in a neural network. A proper weight initialization is crucial. It can greatly reduce the chances of vanishing or exploding gradients. So first, we will look at a few naive weight initialization methods, understand why they fail, and then see how we can improve them. Let's first see what happens when we initialize all the weights as 0. So here we have a small example of a neural network where activations are calculated by taking the weighted sum of the inputs plus a bias and then passing that through an activation function. Similarly, the output activation is obtained by taking the weighted sum of activations from the previous layer, adding the bias term, and applying the activation function again. All of this is something we have already discussed in earlier videos, where we talked about how a neural network works. Now, if we set all the weights and biases to 0 and substitute them into the output equation, we will get f of 0, which is just the activation function evaluated at 0. Now, if we look at this for the ReLU activation, the value at 0 is 0. And the value of its derivative for any positive input is 1, else 0. To be precise, the derivative is undefined at 0, but for practical purpose, it is often considered 0 or 1 sometimes. If you didn't fully understand how that happens, make sure to check out the detailed video I have made on activation functions. I have explained it step by step there. Also, keep in mind that two activations in the hidden layer are also 0 for the ReLU case because the weights and biases are all 0. Now, if we find the gradient of a specific weight, say W5, it will be a chain of derivatives. Now, all of this comes from the concept of backpropagation. If you are not familiar with it, make sure to check out the video on backpropagation. Link is in the description below. When we simplify this expression and substitute the values, we will notice that it contains both the derivative terms and activation terms. But in this case, both of them are 0, which means the entire gradient becomes 0. And when the gradient is 0, the weights won't update at all. So the network stops learning. The same thing will happen for any weight in the previous layer as well. Their gradients will also be 0, causing no update across the network. So, this is what happens when all the weights are initialized to 0 and the activation function is ReLU. Now what if we use sigmoid activation function instead? In this case, the value at 0 is 0.5 and its derivative at 0 is 0.25, which is the maximum value of its derivative. That means each activation in the network will be sigmoid of 0, which equals 0.5. So, this time the activations are not 0, but they are all equal. Now, if we find the gradient for the weights of any particular layer, this time the gradient won't be 0. However, since the activations and their derivatives are the same for every neuron in that layer, all the gradients will end up having the same value. So in this case, the weights W5 and W6 will end up having the same value because the activations in the previous layer, the ones these weights depend on, are identical. So both neurons receive the same input, produce the same activation, and update their weights in exactly the same way. Now, something similar happens with the weights from the previous layer. But since there are two different inputs there, the ones having x1 input will be equal, and those having x2 inputs will be equal. So these two weights will be the same, and these two weights will also be the same. Now, remember that these two activations are exactly identical because they receive the same set of inputs and weights, right? So the entire network behaves as if there is only one neuron per layer, making this symmetrical. When all the weights in a large neural network are initialized the same, every neuron ends up doing the exactly same computation. This means the layers no longer learn different features. They all behave identically. As a result, the entire deep network effectively collapses into a big linear looking model with a non-linear activation function. which can fail to capture complex patterns. Another thing you might be thinking is, what if we initialize all the weights using some constant non-zero value? Now, if you do this, the problem remains exactly the same. There will just be some constant value as the input to the activation function, which means the activations in one layer will be exactly the same. So, the gradients of weights W5 and W6 will also be exactly the same, and therefore W5 and W6 will remain equal. Similarly, just like before, the weights for any particular input will be identical, and the network will again become symmetrical. Now let's switch to something more practical. How about we randomly initialize the weights? Say, from the ith neuron in the current layer to the jth neuron in the previous layer, using a probability distribution, maybe a Gaussian or normal distribution with mean 0 and variance 1. The normal distribution with variance 1 looks something like this on the graph. What if we multiply these numbers by something small like 0.01 so that the weights become very small? In code, we usually write it like this: np.random.random shape times 0.01. So for our example, if the layer has 5 neurons in the input and 6 in the next, the weight matrix will have a shape 6 times 5. Now, we can also initialize the biases in the same way by choosing them from that same distribution. But initializing them with 0 also works fine, because biases don't affect the network the way weights do. Now, different activation functions behave differently after this. Here is some input data. It's usually normalized before fed in to the network. If we use tanh activation function, what happens is that since most of the weights are very small, close to 0 because of the probability distribution, the weighted sum input to the activation function will also be close to 0 most of the time. So it will look something like this, with most values centered around 0. So these tiny activations are then passed to the next layer, which makes them shrink even further. And as this keeps happening, layer after layer, the activations and gradients both get smaller and smaller. Because tan h at 0 is 0 and its derivative at 0 is about 1. This zero-centered activation can still lead to gradients collapsing to 0 as we go deeper. Now, if we use the sigmoid activation, the outputs will be centered around 0.5 since sigmoid at 0 is 0.5. And its derivative is even smaller, around 0.25, which again can cause the vanishing gradient problem. Now, if we initialize the weights to large values, meaning we don't multiply them by a smaller number, the weighted sum can become quite large, either big positive numbers or big negative numbers. So, in the case of tan h, most of the values will be towards -1 or +1, right? Because the inputs are large. The derivatives will also become very small when the outputs are near -1 or +1, causing the gradients to vanish as they backpropagate through the layers. And in the case of sigmoid, most activation values will move to the extreme range, 0 and 1, and their derivatives will also become extremely small when the outputs are near 0 or 1, which again leads to the vanishing gradient problem. In the case of ReLU, things work a bit differently. Since ReLU sets roughly half of the inputs to 0, it effectively halves the variance of the distribution as it passes through the layer. To compensate for this, we need to double our initialization variance. We will see later how to fix this. Now, if the weights are too small, the weighted sum z, which can be slightly positive or negative, will stay very close to 0. That causes two problems. First, neurons with small negative z values stop updating completely. That's the dying ReLU problem. Second, the ones with tiny positive z values still have gradients, but those gradients get multiplied by these small weights. So, as we move backward layer by layer, the gradient keeps shrinking, leading to vanishing gradients. On the other hand, if the weights are too large, G becomes very large for positive inputs. So activations also grow very big as they pass through layers. Then during backprop, those large weights make the gradients explode and training becomes unstable. We will see how to fix this in a moment. Now, there is also a uniform distribution we can use to randomly initialize weights. But the problem stays pretty much the same. If the range is too small, activations shrink and gradients vanish. And if it's too wide, activations blow up or go to extremes, causing exploding or dead neurons. So, just using a normal or uniform distribution without proper scaling does not really fix the problem. This problem can be solved by looking at the variance of activations in each layer and by considering how many inputs are coming in and how many outputs are going out from each neuron and scaling the weight accordingly. That's the main idea behind smarter initialization methods like Xavier and He Initialization. So earlier, we were just scaling the randomly selected weights by some constant value. Instead of doing that, we will use a slightly smarter way. Let's take our weighted sum Z. Here, Wij represents the weight from the ith neuron in the current layer to the jth neuron in the previous layer. Now, this N is the number of inputs coming into a particular neuron, and the number of outputs going out of a neuron is represented using N out. In research papers and deep learning literature, you will often see these called fan in and fan out, which basically mean the same thing. Fan in is the number of input connections, and fan out is the number of output connections for a neuron. Now, the main goal here is to keep the variance of the activation inputs close to 1. There is actually a full mathematical justification behind this, which I will optionally introduce in the last part of the video. But for now, let's see the formula. It turns out that if we set the variance of the weights to 1 upon n in, then the variance of the activations stays roughly constant across layers. It does not keep shrinking or growing as we move deeper into the network. So the standard deviation in this case will be the square root of 1 upon n in. That means we can take our random weights from a normal distribution with mean 0 and variance 1 and then scale them by this standard deviation. It's basically the same thing as saying we are drawing weights with mean 0 and variance 1 upon n in. Now, if we take the average of both the number of inputs and the number of outputs of the network, it can actually perform a bit better in some situations. This is called Xavier Initialization, and it works really well for tanh and sigmoid functions. But it fails miserably with ReLU, because remember, ReLU kills half of the activations. So researchers came up with a clever tweak. They simply multiplied the previous scaling factor, the one involving n in, by 2. Since it turns out that scaling by 2 helps fix the activation loss caused by ReLU. This is known as He Initialization, and it's practically seen to work really well for ReLU and its variants like leaky ReLU. Now all these versions we talked about used a Gaussian distribution, but we can do the same thing using a uniform distribution as well. Only the formula will be a little different. All these formulas were actually derived by trying to stabilize the variance of the activations across the layers. Now, I want to talk a little about the mathematics of it briefly, and you can skip this part if you don't want to go into deep maths. So, the main idea behind this is that we need to maintain the variance of activations across the layers. The variance of activations in one layer's output should be close to the variance of activations in the next layer, and that should continue throughout the network. And by the way, this A0 represents the inputs. The reason I said earlier that the variance should be close to 1 is because we usually normalize the inputs to have variance 1. So, if the input starts with a certain variance, we want to maintain the same variance across the network to keep the activations stable. Remember, the activations in any layer is a function of the weighted sum Z from the previous layer. The variance of the previous layer's activations therefore directly affects the variance of the next layer's weighted sum. Now, let's look at the value of z. For simplicity, let's remove the I index and keep only j in the formula. If we find the variance of this value, it will look like the whole summation inside the variance. And if the input random variables are independent, the summation can come out. The variance of the sum becomes the sum of the variances. This is a basic property of random variables from statistics. Next, if both random variables are independent and have a mean of 0, which is true in our case, then the variance of the products can be written as the product of their variances. Now, if the variances of the weights and the inputs are assumed to be stable and close, we can directly multiply the total number of inputs n in by these two variances. This means that the total variance of z depends on how many inputs are coming into the neuron and the variance of both the weights and the inputs. Since we want the variance of weighted sum z to be roughly the same as the variance of the input x, we can set them approximately equal and get that variance of the weights to be 1 over n in. This happens during the forward pass, and something similar can be done during backpropagation, where the gradients flow backward, and their variance depends on how many outputs the neuron has. Everything remains the same. Now, in a Xavier initialization, we take the average of these values. In the case of Xavier uniform, the variance is given by a squared over 3. So, we equate this to the desired variance and derive the formula for the range A. Now, this works well for sigmoid and tanh type activation functions, but it fails miserably for ReLU. The reason is that in the case of ReLU, the two variances we assume to be close are actually not. Since ReLU kills about half the activations, the variance of the input becomes only half the variance of the next layer's activations. Now, one clever method that researchers have used is to just multiply the variance we derived earlier by 2. This practically solves the problem of half the activations being killed and works remarkably well for ReLU and its variance. This is the He initialization using a normal distribution. For the uniform distribution, a similar approach is used. We equate the variance term to the desired value and then derive the range A. That's all for this video. See you in the next one.